There we go. And this is where we left off in Blender the other day, right? We just did some review stuff yesterday. Also, remember, guys, tomorrow is the minimum day, so you do not come in. We'll be 10 minutes shorter, so we'll go from 9 to 10, and it's distance learning. So you guys will be at home. I'll be at home. So, guys, don't come to school tomorrow. You guys shouldn't be anyways, because you'd be on distance learning anyways, right? But for my guys that are on distance learning today that are supposed to come in tomorrow, don't, right? It's minimum days are, at least as far as I know, for the foreseeable future, going to be distance learning days. We don't have that many, but, you know, they will be distance learning. So just keep that in mind. Tomorrow is a distance learning day, even though it's a Friday. Normally it won't be, but since it's the minimum day. And we'll also just be here from 9, we'll be in class from 9 to 10. So tomorrow I'll end up doing just a review day, since we'll be at home. But I did want to do some new stuff today. But the great thing about the new stuff is it's really just going to be more of the stuff we've already kind of been doing, right? It's just going to be extruding and bridging border edges. We'll just use it to build more of the car. So today's video is going to be a tremendous amount of repeating, right? But a lot of you guys remember when we did the crab, once you kind of knew how to use the extrude and loop cut tools, right? That actually allowed you to do quite a bit of your crab, right? You would just extrude some polygons off, put some loop cuts in, right? Believe it or not, once you start to get to know the basic interface and kind of about, like, say, 10 tools in any 3D software, there's kind of like what I call the 80% tools. There's about 10 tools that are the 80% tools, the tools that you use a lot. And then you have some other tools that are like, yeah, you'll use them like 20% of the time. They're there when you occasionally need them. And you could do the vast majority of your modeling with like 5 or 10 tools. Yes? Uh-huh. Yes. Yeah. So, we can take a look at that when we go to our asynchronous, but it's going to be the mirror. You do, in this case, even though I technically haven't mirrored on the x-axis, I picked the z because I did rotate the wheels, and that throws this off. So you might want to try the z-axis instead of the x to see if that works. Okay, and that's something as well we can talk about it a little more. I'm going to show some more today on how to do that, so you can watch today. There's the videos, but of course I can kind of work with you a little bit when we go to asynchronous as well. The other thing to keep in mind too is, remember, when I moved the wheels, I actually went to face mode and selected the wheels and moved them so that the origin, see that little orange dot, stays on the origin, and that will make the mirror work better too. So that might have been it as well. But we really just duplicated those guys off, and we'll be doing some more review of that stuff again tomorrow. And of course, it's all in the videos as well. But we have asynchronous time, which I'll be able to help you with as well. So yeah, and remember, you don't have to use this, but if you want to, with the regular shade on, you can go to this little kind of V pointing down. And remember, you can change to matte cap, and you can pick these different kind of material presets to give you kind of the look you white. I kind of like the white because it still gives you a nice reflection that the cherry red would, but it's a little more neutral a color. So I like the kind of white, but it's really neat. Matte caps are super easy to use in Blender. They're nice. And you see them in a lot of sculpting applications. ZBrush has them. Mudbox has them. Actually, Moto has them. Mai doesn't necessarily per se, but, you know. But really what I wanted to do just a little more of today for the next like 10, 15 minutes is just do more of the extruding, right? Because now at this point we need to kind of build kind of the top, or at least the basic framework for it. So remember, one of the things I did, though, of course, is I built the wheels. I selected faces, kind of like half a horseshoe on the wheel. And remember, I did a kind of a duplicate to copy those off, scale them up, and that's set up the basic wheel well shape that I could then extrude and bridge border edges off. And I just kind of took the wheel and the arch and duplicated them over here, stuff like that. Because you want that kind of nice little edge loop flow for the wheel well, right? And that's kind of one of the things we wanted to build up on. Now, if you wanted to start to get yourself kind of the wheel well looking a little more solid on the inside, remember, one of the things you could do is go to 2 for edge mode, right? And I could select this face, or that edge, and then I could go over here to shift-click this edge, And remember, there is in the select menu, right, select link, shortest path. Now I have a quickie set up for that, which I like, X. And what that does is you see how it kind of selects that the edges in between those. Now the cool thing is you can keep extending that, so it doesn't just stop there. You can go Shift, left click down here, and then do your quick key for shortest path, right? So remember, that's in your select tool. So all your select tools are in here, and select linked has your linked for kind of grabbing all the polygons that are directly connected to each other. And shortest path does exactly that. It kind of selects the edges or faces that are the shortest path in between two different selections. Great tools. Could you manually select these? Yeah. I'm going to go over here and do the kind of same thing, right? So I'm going to Shift left click X, and you see how it kind of starts to do a new shortest path. And I can go to here, X, and that's just the quick key I've set for it, right? Because it's over in the keyboard area next to my left hand, right? So I always like to try to have as much there, easy to get to, right? If you have to go all the way over the keyboard, that's kind of not as ergonomically sound. That's one of the reasons why I changed my select link to spacebar, because I use that all the time. And right brackets kind of all the way over to the other side of the keyboard. Remember, all you have to do is right click and change shortcut to change any, or to create your shortcuts or change ones. So I just kind of want to select the inner parts of the wheel wells. And if I wanted to, I could even kind of select the bottom part of this chassis, but I think for now we'll leave it. And remember, we can just do Control E for extrude, right? Remember, we have our extrude tool. And I can just middle mouse click to create an extrusion. And then I can hit W for my regular move tool, right? W, that's our quiz today, right? W for the move tool. It's right here. And I just grab that axis, kind of move it in a little bit. I can do a Control E again. Middle mouse click just to do the extrusion. W for move. And you see how just by extruding kind of those border edges in, you can create this much more solid-looking kind of wheel well shape inside of there. And that's this huge part of making the car body. Once you kind of get the initial start off the wheels, that's why we created the wheels first, and then kind of base the arches on that. And that's what, when I build cars, I always build from the wheels and wheel wells out, because that gives you that nice, clean, really precise arch shape. From there, go bananas, have fun, make a crazy futuristic car. But you'll notice it's just extruding border edges, right? And border edges, remember, are edges that only have one face connected to them, right? So like this one right here is an edge, but there's only one face connected to it. This edge right here has two faces connected to it. That is not a border edge. And if you extrude that, that creates that non-manifold geometry. I think that's in the second or third video. And that's bad. That could cause your subdivision surface to look weird. Many of your tools like loop cut and bevel won't work there. So non-manifold geometry, not good. So when you're using this extrude, it should be on border edges, right? But it is just your extrude tool. So in fact, here, if I wanted to kind of extend this wheel well out further, remember also I've assigned quick keys to my tweak tool, right? So you see if I kind of set my my mouse, right? I've set my fourth and fifth mouse buttons to tweak and circle select. Remember, Q toggles through those though, right? So Q, if you just keep hitting Q, because that's your selection quick key, it toggles through all those types right there. But I did set a quick key up for circle select, right? That's just your drag select. And I did set one up for tweak tool, because I like the tweak tool a lot. And that's just the same as normal. Like you pull, hold the pull down here, right? If you left click, hold. If you hold down your left mouse button on that tool, it brings up a menu form. And you see how I set my fourth mouse button and my fifth mouse button to those. Now the cool thing is that tweak lets me just tweak the shape. And once again, you guys don't have to use the tweak tool. If you don't want to right now, it's okay. It's optional. It is awesome though. But what I can do also is it's just part of your selection tool. So you can just have it on, and I actually usually have it on a lot, and then just select to do other things with it. And whenever you do another tool and then kind of turn that tool off, it often will go back to those. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of select that edge, shift left click this edge. Remember, I've set a quick key for my shortest path, so I'll grab those, but remember, it's in the select menu. So the nice thing is you guys can start to set up your own quick keys, right? Because Blender has some good quick keys for a lot of good default stuff, but some of it they just didn't set quick keys for. Kind of leaving it up to you to kind of set your own quick keys for some of those things. And once again, it's just the extrude tool, right? Remember, your extrude's right here. If you're ever to right-click, right? You right-click, your tools are all in here. But remember, Control E is the quick key for extrude. So E for extrude, but we just want to use Control E because E is rotate also, right? So E is actually already taken. The default E is taken up by your rotate tool. So that's why it's Control E. So Control E will let us extrude. And of course, if you grab this one, it kind of does average, normal. But in this case, I just want to move it along view. So I can just middle mouse drag to kind of pull that out a little bit. So you notice how we've now got more paneling. Now, I can, of course, hit W for move, and I can maybe do middle mouse button for view move there. I could also just turn my tweak tool on, right? And I could tweak this edge up a little bit, and maybe that edge up a little bit there. And I can easily start to kind of go in here and just tweak these a little bit more. But you'll notice that I've kind of got more of this card panel out here, right? So you can see as you start to build, you can start to build more and more of this. Remember, I can hit 1 for vertex, and your tweak tool's still on. I can tweak that in a little bit if I wanted to. Maybe tweak that one back a little bit there. I could hit 2 for edge mode again. And what I could do is and I did multiple edges there, but I could just do a single edge. And I can hit Control E for that. So extrude for Control E. And I could do another mouse button for another extrusion. Maybe regular E for rotate. And remember, you can grab the handles, but if you just wanted to do it based on the view, just middle mouse button will do view rotate. I can go down here, middle mouse button to view rotate that. And I can even hit R for scale to switch back to scale tool. Middle mouse button to scale that in a little bit. And if I wanted to, I could switch my tweak tool a little bit and kind of maybe tweak that in a little bit. Tweak that edge. And you see how we can kind of start to bring in a bit of the shape for your actual kind of windows. So I can do Control E again for another little extrusion here. Now, remember, this extrude tool's on, but I could switch to a different selection type, right? So I could switch to this edge. And then I could just do middle mouse button out for that one. And then middle mouse button out. And then, of course, I could go back to tweak a little bit, or just move, however you want to do it, right? One will switch to vertices, so I could kind of bring these back in here a little bit. And I could have, of course, just kept extruding that one out if I wanted to, but I figured maybe a little sharper front end would be kind of cool there. And remember, you can switch back and forth between your selection types without turning your tweak tool off or your move tool. So if you're in move, rotate, or scale, or tweak, just switch to your different selection types with 1, 2, or 3, and those tools will still stay on. I can do another extrusion here. And you see how maybe I'll tweak that shape to make it a little kind of straighter there. But you notice how we're starting to basically get these forms in here. And of course, this guy can be tweaked in here a little bit, so we can kind of keep adjusting those shapes and forms as we go. And at this point, maybe another extrusion. Control E, right? E for rotate. That's why it's Control E, because regular E is rotate. But remember, it's not just about extruding border edges. So I've got this border edge selected. I can hold down Shift to select this border edge. And if I want it to be smaller, I could always put a loop cut in, right? Remember, loop cut's right there. The quick key for that is Alt-C. Right, so I can do Alt-C. Just maybe left-click drag in there a little bit to put a loop in. And of course, if I want to tweak the shape, I can. I think that's pretty good there, though. But I can go back and select this edge. Shift left-click to select that edge. So I've selected 2, right? And then if you right-click, remember, right-clicking brings up whatever context menu you're in. In this case, I'm in Edge, so it's Edge Tools. And that's where Extrude Edges is, and that's just what I've been doing for the border edges. And you see there's one called Bridge Edge Loops. And what that does is that creates that new geometry between them. And then, of course, I can tweak that edge a little bit. I can tweak this one down a little bit. And you notice how we're starting to actually build out kind of the window, kind of top of the car frame shape. And of course, as we go, we can keep adjusting. But you see that at the end of the day, this really gives you the ability to kind of build the contours you want, right? And it's really just tools you already are pretty used to, like Extrude Tool. It's just that we're doing it to border edges, right? we've got these kind of paper thin single polygons, and we're just grabbing the edges on the border of the geometry to do it. Now, of course, if I wanted to fix up the roof, I could select that face. And I'll go to here, so shift left click there. And of course, I could use my quick key, but remember in the select menu, select link shortest path. Now remember, I've got clipping on for the body. So when I do Control E and extrude it out, cool, we've got that for our start. I can middle mouse click again. And as I bring those closer together, that clipping sews those up. And of course, remember, double left click will select an edge loop. If I want to, of course, I can switch back to my tweak tool to kind of bring some of these in a little bit here if I wanted to for shape. Bring that one down a bit. Maybe bring that one. And you see why I love the tweak tool, right? Is it really allows me to quickly and easily make really fast adjustments to the shape without having to select and then shape, select and then shape. I can just kind of do it right in one shot. I can switch back to 2 for edge mode and kind of bring these back in here a little bit. So you can see why I really like my tweak tool, because I don't have to select and then move. It's not 2 clicks, it's single click. That's why I love my the tweak tool, right? Because it takes a click out of the process of shaping. So tweak tool, awesome. I love it. It's one of my favorite tools. Doesn't mean you always use it, right? Sometimes the other one's more appropriate. If you're selecting a whole edge loop and you want to rotate and scale and move specifically just along one axis, the tweak tool is set up to be a view move, right? It moves based on the view. But once again, we saw that this is just things like our clipping feature being on for our mirror. That allows that center to sew up together and stay on. And it's really just extruding border edges and bridging. But now we see that we're starting to get a car that's more and more resembling a car, right? But also we have full control over kind of building the panels and the shapes to follow the exact contour we want. So you notice edge loop structure-wise, this vehicle is more complicated than, say, like some of our furniture was, or even our crab creature, right? So when we start to deal with building a car or more advanced characters, creatures, we do have to think about how muscle, how bone, how shape, right? The contours of the shape, how edge loops should follow that contour, right? And what's cool about this method is it lets you build nice edge loops in an efficient model, but it also is just letting you kind of build and follow the contours of the panels. Obviously, as we go, we could build more complicated paneling, like we still haven't done the door yet, right? But you'll start to see this all starts to go together. You can start to figure out how to bridge the things the way you want them to connect together. And this just really gives you the option to get really creative with the contours for your car. But it really all starts from those kind of wheel wells, arches, and then it's just a lot of extruding and bridging border edges for your shape. And of course, we can go back in and keep tweaking. Maybe we want this kind of hood area to be a little bit shorter, kind of bring those in a little bit, right? So we can keep shaping as we go. Start to eventually figure out how we want to bridge these two guys together, but that can be another day in another video, right? We have a whole term to build this car, and you can already see we've got a decent amount of it quite quickly and easily, right? It's taken us a couple days of video lecture, but you know, when you're building it on your own, it's quite quick and easy. All right, so that'll be, I think, a great place to stop on that because it's 9:30.